unleash your inner Goldilocks, how to get it just right. Thank you so much for joining us for another hour of insightful and exciting conversation. And as always, you are absolutely going to love my guest today. And she is staying up late night for an ungodly hour to participate here and share her wisdom with you. So let's get started. What does Goldilocks mean to us? And what does it mean to unleash our inner Goldilocks? Think about what that symbolizes for you. For me, it symbolizes my childhood innate ability to know exactly what I want and know exactly how to go about getting it. Remember, if you don't remember your own childhood, think about your younger siblings, your nieces, your neighbors' kids. Even before they start talking, don't they know exactly how to use body language and with their eyes and their smile and their gestures? They wrap you around their little finger and they can make you do things you normally wouldn't do for anybody. Grown men turn into little baby talk folks, right? So when children have the innate ability to influence people, what happens to us as we grow up? Where are we forgetting that inherent ability? And how do we unleash that is the key. And why do we need to do that? Research shows that we can each only influence three levels from where we are. So if I am taking an extreme right perspective because that's what makes sense for me, and I am being very selfish and looking at it only from my perspective, I can only influence 3 levels towards the center. If similarly, I'm coming from the extreme left, I can only influence 3 levels towards the center. But what if, just what if, I took a broader perspective and looked at what I want, how does it affect everybody around me, and come from that place of centeredness? And all of a sudden, because I am no longer at the extreme, I can influence 3 levels to my right, 3 levels to my left, and everybody else in that centralized zone. I've taken the fact of 3 levels of influence and magnified it to 7 levels, purely by virtue of getting centered. And by getting centered, it's not just my prosperity I'm assuring, I am building for shared prosperity. Will you ever engage in a project if the person leading the project is going to win and you and everybody else is going to lose? There is no reason to engage in such an endeavor, right? Because there's nothing in it for you, you only lose. So anytime we don't come from a win-win centeredness, there's no reason we're not giving others a reason to engage. So let's make a commitment for our own self, for our own growth and our own development and our own prosperity, that we find a way to get perspective and we get centered so that we can lead from the middle and influence from the middle. Even the very essence of identifying our purpose is at the centeredness of what you love, what you're great at, and what the world needs. Coming from that center of those 3 elements is what's going to give you fulfillment. It's going to give you the mastery and the subject matter expert status in what you do. And it is going to drive your economic engine. If all 3 don't come together, then your purpose is not going to drive your success. And your purpose is not properly and fully identified. So as we jump into today's conversation, I want us to take 3 ennobling thoughts into our conversation. The first one is invest in finding your purpose. Your purpose is the most important barometer that is going to take you in a journey of staying true north. When your purpose drives your actions, magic happens. And until you find that purpose and sit in that purpose and come from it, it's going to feel like you're doing work. It doesn't feel like it's magical and it's joyful. Things are organically happening. The second ennobling thought I want to take into the conversation is develop agility and flexibility. Agility and flexibility allow us to seamlessly evolve and thrive. Life is not static and it is not rigid and it's not a straight line. We're constantly having to recalibrate as the world around us changes. And we know this more than any other time because we are trying to get out of COVID. For 2 years, the world as we knew it had completely changed into something different. So for me to be successful and thrive and live my purpose, I need to be agile and flexible so that I can evolve. And it's only through evolving we thrive because the world around us is forever changing. And the third ennobling thought I want us to take into the conversation is always remembering you are whole, even when you're growing. Do yourself a favor. Every evening when you step outside, look at the moon. Look at the moon and remind yourself, just like the moon, regardless of the stage of growth or decline the moon is in, because it takes a 28-day cycle, it is still whole. It is still beautiful. It is still out there doing what it's supposed to do. So you have a lot in common with the moon. You are whole through all life changes. You shine on even when the dogs howl. You remember as a kid when the full moon is out or when the new moon is out, all the dogs come out and howl at the moon? Nothing happens to the moon goes on. So it doesn't matter what folks around you tell. Just be the moon, embrace that ability to shine on and grow and glow all at the same time. Today, to have this conversation of why investing in yourself and having a positive mindset is the best career advice is Manohari Gunawardhena joining us all the way from the Philippines, but she's originally from Sri Lanka. Manohari, welcome. Welcome to our episode. You're muted, Manohari.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here. And thank you for all who's attending this session. Although it is very late in Manila, I'm quite excited to be here and quite wide awake.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So let me tell you a little bit about Manohari so that as we get started, you can see the value and the precious gifts she brings to the world every day from her part of the world. Manohari Gunawardhena is a banker with 30 years experience in banking, finance, treasury, and capital markets in Sri Lanka and the region, being Asia. Currently, she's a senior financial sector specialist, South Asia Regional Department, Public Sector Finance Institutions, Asian Development Bank. She assumed duties in her present capacity in October 2019. Prior to that, she was an investment specialist at Asian Development Bank's private sector operations department covering South Asia, Southeast Asia, Central Asia, and East Asia, specializing in financial institutions for 4 years. She held corporate management positions as Senior VP Corporate Banking and Capital Markets at DFCC Bank from 2013 to 2015, and the Senior President, Group Treasury and Resource Mobilization for DFCC Bank from 2005 to 2013. In addition to her functional roles, she was also the former non-executive director on the boards of Equity Security Limited and Equity Partners Limited. And for full disclosure purposes, Manohari and I started as management trainees for Standard Chartered Bank in 1991, and that is how long we have known each other professionally. So I am so honored, thrilled, and excited to have you on, Manohari. And more than anything else, so honored to have you take this book journey as a co-author for Ennobling Business for Success. Thank you so much for being here. And as we get started, talk to us about what your journey has been, and through your journey, how have you learned the importance of, no matter what's going on in the world, no matter what people are telling you, why it's important to invest in yourself and make that personal relationship with your inner being the most important investment ever.
Thanks, Kasturi. This is an opportunity that I've been looking forward to explain my journey. I want to say something very, very simple to start off with. I have 2 children.
Mhm.
When I returned to work after having my first kid, a senior manager in my organization had a conversation with me and was explaining to me what had happened in the organization during my absence. And he told me, we have introduced this product. If you understand, this is how it works. I won't give you the details of the product. That's not important. It sort of irked me that he thought I needed to be explained what the mechanics of the product is. Hey, I was away only for a short 4 months. Has something happened to my brain? And I was like, should I be even here working? So the journey began for me on that day. I need to invest in myself without just doing my job. People need to see me as the person that I want them to see. And it is all within your control. Because if I see myself as a person who has taken maternity leave, a leave of absence, and I'm away from things, that's probably how people are going to see me. Because I give those vibes out. And I'm a great believer in body language and people forming opinions. People say all kinds of things, but they mean something very different. So early on in my journey, I learned to read body signals, and they have never failed me. So I wanted to tell you that part of my journey, the most important part of that journey was trying to understand people, and through that, give vibes out that I would want them to receive. And that actually means I need to understand what vibes I'm generating. And that was not an easy thing for me at all. And I think earlier on, when you shared the screen, I realized the real journey is trying to understand myself. If I understand myself, then I can explain myself and I can give those vibes out, which meant I need to invest in myself. I need to have a lot of time to understand who I am and what is important to me. So this is how my journey in self-realization began.
And that is such an important reminder for most women, because regardless of where in the world women come from, in one way, shape, or form, we are pulled into that trap to make feel like the minute you have a child, your priority is different. You're not going to focus on work. If you're talking to somebody, you're gossiping. If 2 men are talking, they're talking strategy. There's so much biases and bias-based projections put on women. I'm so glad you started with that, Manohari, because we come from a culture where women are leaders. Women are not considered secondary. The first elected female head of state in the entire world came from Sri Lanka, Mrs. Sirimavo Bandaranaike. And yet in that society, these feelings can exist too, right? So what advice do you have based on your journey for women on how to not take that offensively, but flip that and use the script positively to empower and come out in all their glory and without apology embrace who they are?
I have 3 pieces of advice which I follow. The first piece of advice was not something I was taking myself, but now I take it all the time to the fullest extent. First one is be female. I'm proud to be female. There is a sort of a belief, at least our part of the world, that if you wear flashy earrings, if you wear, let's say, non-corporate colors, then you're not serious about your job. I know it sounds silly, but this is how it goes. So I decided I'm going to wear exactly what pleases me, within decorum, of course, but something that pleases me, something which makes me feel good, and I know I look good. So I'm not scared to be female because I love being female. And I encourage every female out there, if you want to be you, you need to be comfortable with what you are dressed in, what you portray, and that makes you feel good. Put on your lipstick, put on your makeup. If that makes you feel good, and some people think that you are over made up, it doesn't really matter. Just like the moon, you are shining because you are giving out positive vibes because you're feeling good about yourself. So first thing is be female, be who you are. The second piece of advice is stay focused, because many people try to distract you. They will bring your gender to the fore, or you may not be able to do this. You may not be able to travel at this hour. You may not be able to work to a certain number of days. That's fine. Let them say that. And maybe that is true. Maybe you want to take a little bit of time off. You want to do it in a different way. It's a customized thing. It really doesn't matter. You need to stay focused on what is important. And for that, you need patience to bring the focus back to what is important, not about yourself or your leave or your lifestyle habits or anything. So this also takes a lot of practice, because you need to be patient. You need to engage people in conversations. Third thing is, I don't know about the great women and men who have participated in this series, whether they have faced that problem, but I have faced that problem. I don't make time to network. I still don't make enough time to network, but I have been improving on it. Networking is so vital. It's not only for you to get a leg up in your organization, it is to build support. You need that support in difficulties. You need that support to get guidance. And of course, you need that support for acceptance. So that networking is so important. It will be the person whom you have lunch together with, or the person that you go and stand at the coffee machine and take a coffee with, or maybe it's the person that you meet in the lift at the same time every day. It doesn't matter. I find that there are all these little groups of people that you network with, and then suddenly you see them at a forum, at a meeting. They could be your allies, right? So don't ever neglect that 2 minutes or 3 minute conversation. So 3 things: be who you are, and especially for the females, be female, be proud of it, wear whatever you are comfortable with. Don't think that you are too old or too young or too higher up in the hierarchy or too low in the hierarchy to wear whatever you want to wear. And stay focused. All kinds of criticisms may come, but you have a task, you have a goal to reach, and you must stay focused on that. And that discipline needs to be there with you. And thirdly, you need to network constantly. These things sound very simple, but I'm telling you, you are doing a job day in, day out, struggling with so many priorities. To keep these things in your mind and do them every day is a battle. So how do I do it? I write it down. I decide on what I'm going to wear 5 days of the week during the weekend. So I get my accessories, I keep them out, and then sometimes I change them, thinking, is this going to be too loud for this meeting? And I'm telling myself, why did I keep it out in the first time? Because I wanted to wear it. I'm going to wear it. So you have to do this constantly. It has to become like a second skin to you.
Beautifully said, Manohari. And a lot of times women in leadership feel that they have to let go of their femininity and they have to become masculine to be accepted. And that doesn't have to be. And I know this from experience, and you have known me long enough. I do not wear blacks and grays to work. I wear bright colors. I embrace my Sri Lankan Hindu tradition, and I am the way I am. And as long as I don't feel bad about how I show up, people accept it. And in fact, people come and tell me, oh my God, Cass, 6 months of the year is winter and outside is gray, inside is gray. We had to come and say good morning so that you bring a ray of sunshine because my clothes are bright, right? So people will find ways to gravitate if we truly show up authentic to who we are and we are comfortable in our own skin. So thank you for that very, very important word of advice. And the other thing that two things both resonated for me: staying in your purpose and being patient to work through that purpose, and networking. The networking allows us to continue to stay in our purpose. And research shows that for a man to be happy and successful, he needs a wife who'll take care of him. But for a woman to be happy and successful, she needs her tribe. Because husbands, it doesn't matter how much they love us, they can't do the things for us like other women can. And having a network of sisterhood, a tribe, a professional group of supportive people, that is what helps us women thrive. And investing in that is very much like breathing for us. And if we don't build it and we don't put into it, we can't take it when we need. So I think of it as like an ATM machine, right, Mano? You and I are bankers. So when you're driving by, just because you pass an ATM machine every day doesn't mean you can go and get money out of it when you want. You actually have to go into the bank, open a bank account, deposit into it, build a relationship, have an ATM card, and set yourself up in a way that when you need the money, you can access it. Relationships are the same way. So how have you found ways to build these relationships? Because being a mother, being a professional, running a household, trying to logistically manage everything, and living and working in different countries the way we do in our part of the world, that is not easy. That's more than 2 full-time jobs. So how can a person do this? In addition to having a schedule, what are some of the other tips that you employ?
I have not been good at it all throughout. I have been improving and I'm still learning it, I have to say. I love your ATM example. And last week, I don't think I deposited as much money in the ATM as I should have. I prioritize. How do I prioritize? When you prioritize, we all know about prioritizing. We put the most important things at the top and the less important things at the bottom. But you need to do something more. You need to delegate and you need to stop worrying about the details. There is this saying that devil is in the details. Yes, devil is in the details, but it's devil is in the details of how you delegate to. I have to tell you one thing that I don't do often. Maybe some other women do. I'm not a good cook. I cook on and off for pleasure, but I don't do it daily because I wish to spend that time talking to people. As you correctly said, I have friends all over the world. So we live in different time zones. So I would rather catch people on their way to work or when they're relaxing or whatever the time that I can catch them rather than doing a chore. So certain things I have delegated. That comes with a price. I don't get the food the way I want to eat it. Perhaps it is not cooked the way I want it, but it's less of a priority for me. So I prioritize and I give up things that I really don't think so importantly. Second thing that I do in order to network is to remember people's birthdays. I have this list. I have developed a little system where something pops up. I still do make mistakes, but people really love it when you remember their life events. And sometimes when I do forget, what I do is I call, if I can, if I know them, their close relatives, talk to them. And those relatives say, hey, this one spoke after some time, and that warms them up. It is rarely a person who doesn't warm to you if you speak to them often or even less often. So I think picking up the phone, I mean, we are so connected today, it's much easier than earlier. So you really need to invest time. And that time means that you spend less time being, let me put it this way, selfish me time. We all love me time. I mean, I spend about 2 hours a day. I don't let absolutely anything encroach on my time during those 2 hours. But other than that, I really do work on talking to people. But you know me, Kasturi, I love talking to people and I love sharing their problems. One gift that I have is people open out to me. I have written that in my article too. They come to my room and I think they have this sympathetic or empathetic face perhaps, and they start opening their life to me and I talk to them and I listen to them. Sometimes I end up working 2-3 hours longer, not because I worked hard during the day, because I spend those 2-3 hours talking to people. So it's really nice. Through this, I have developed a good network and I'm continuing to do that. So one thing is just prioritizing and keep on doing it. Like it's something like, as you correctly said, something you build over the years. So you need to do this every day. Every day talk to someone you haven't spoken for some time, but somebody who did you a good deed, somebody whom you liked, somebody whose article you read some time ago. It doesn't really matter. You need to do that. I don't think there's any like short solution to that. That's the long and the short of it. And it's really a sweet result-oriented thing.
Absolutely, Manohari. And who doesn't like when somebody thinks of them and calls them and says, hey, I was just thinking of you and I thought I should hear your voice and see how you're doing. How are you doing? Right? When somebody does that to me, I'm like, oh my God, they really care about me. And it is inherently human nature to want to be cared about. And so you're perfectly right. It is such a simple thing. And you don't need to call everybody every day, but have some kind of a mechanism that works for you, right? And this also then builds the relationships in an authentic way so that you have a sphere of influence. Talk to us about the sphere of influence, Manohari, because you came as a young graduate from the university into the bank. And today you are a very respected professional woman in the region. That didn't happen because you kept your head down and just did your work. It happened because you've built relationships, you've helped people, you've cared about people, and you've made other people successful. How did you build your sphere of influence, and how can other people learn from it?
It's a very interesting question. I'm so glad that you asked, and I'm happy to give you the answer. One man set me on my way on that. I was a very hardworking executive in my 30s with a young family, absolutely no time for networking and cultivating relationships. I attended a session chaired by this man. He's Mr. Kamath. He was at one time the managing director, CEO of ICICI Bank in India, a big leading bank in India. And he told our CEO at the organization, at the organization that I worked for at that time, please encourage your people to be industry leaders. Give them time off to participate in industry associations, present papers, go wherever they have to, attend seminars. They need to be seen. That's how they become thought leaders in the industry. And then I thought, how can I do this? The very next week, I enrolled in 2-3 industry bodies that I could think of in my country. And I've never looked back. It was started with a kind of a, let me say, self-serving bias, perhaps, because I wanted to do something for myself. But then I realized I'm giving so much to the industry. And that actually built my sphere of influence day by day, because that sphere of influence grew outside my organization in the industry. And then it spread to the other sectors in the financial system. I started teaching. That meant I extended my sphere of influence to the universities, to the institutes. So everywhere I was getting to know people, and people were talking about me, and I was building my sphere of influence. It was getting extended, so much so that when I changed jobs, every job had come my way because somebody picked up the phone and said, are you interested in this? can we come and meet up with you? Or would you like an interview with us? So it all happened. I never applied for a job after my 30s. It was all as a result of headhunting. And that didn't happen because I stayed in the organization, but I was very seriously growing my sphere of influence. And finally, when I joined ADB, that was also through that sphere of influence. So this is something that you build over the years. Wherever you are, I mean, you are doing it as every day. You are influencing so many people. And when people write to me little notes of appreciation, even today I got a note saying that you were my kind of guiding light when I was working in your team, and you showed me the way. I feel so happy that my sphere of influence is not only significantly benefiting me, but benefiting others. So go out there, join the associations, join whatever the forum that you are interested in, and make your voice hear, and then contribute. Contribute by way of actually, you can do it in so many ways. I wrote articles, I taught, I helped arrange functions. All of that was done when my other colleagues were working their way up promotions. Maybe my promotions got held up a little, but I was able to change organizations, and I really like it. They say Rolling Stone gathers no moss, but I say mobility is ability.
Beautifully said. Mobility is ability. That is going to be the phrase of the day. Because when you are mobile, you're actually building resilience, you're building flexibility, you're building agility. And therefore, you're going to be able to deal with anything that comes your way. And therefore, you're going to be somebody people look up to when they run into roadblocks because, oh, Manohari has been through situations like this. Let me pick up the phone and talk to her. Because now you become the go-to person. And this has actually helped you with your kids, right? Your children have learned from it. They are studying in different countries. And your network is around there to support them because you have already invested. So this is not just a singular for you and your career. This actually has a generational overflow. Talk to us about the importance of parents building the sphere of influence so that their children can stand on the shoulders and reach further. Because sometimes parents don't do that because they think their job is just to make money and run a household. But what matters to children is the time we've spent and the opportunities we've given them.
Thanks, Kasturi. Again, a wonderful question. Sometime back, I think a few years back, I posted on Facebook a picture. This picture was of a mother traveling on a train, reading a book, keeping a child on her lap, and the child is also reading a book. So what do I want to say here? Children really follow their parents. I know it is very, very banal and very trite and cliche, but they really do. I'm a parent, and I'm not all the time giving the perfect example. There are times when I let my hair down, when I'm angry, when I'm shouting. But I heard a friend of mine in the US, when I visited my son in the US, he told me something which made my heart overflow. He said when he met my son for the first time, he thought he was very reserved and he was wondering why. When he started questioning my son had told him, I'm here for one purpose. I will achieve my purpose when I pay back my parents. They did so much for me to come to the US. I need to show them that I'm making something of my life. That's the reason why I'm here. Everything flows from there. I never knew that he felt like that, and it made me so happy. I don't know where my children will be one day. So far, they have turned out well, but one thing is very clear. You need to give them a value system, and that value system will come through the influence that you have on them. And that influence you will have by spending time with them, investing with them. I go back to my priorities, Cass, here. I'm not a house proud, not a great cook person. But I was the one who introduced my children to poetry, science, everything. I spent so much time with them. When they could hardly read, I read books with them. So it's all about investing time and influencing them. So this influence doesn't grow overnight. I mean, you can't give your kids the monetary things, even education, everything, and suddenly step into their lives and say, hey, can you do this instead of that? They're not going to respect you or listen to you because you are not interested in them. They cannot be vehicles for your dreams. So this is something very hard for us parents to realize, because all of us have that tendency. I couldn't do this in my life. Let my child do it. Let me give him or her every opportunity to do that. Yes, you do give that, but they'll do something entirely different. And you should be proud of that, because that's what you wanted them to be from the beginning, to think for themselves and be independent. Both my sons have turned out different to what I expected, but I'm not unhappy with what they have turned out to be. Somebody asked me the other day, why are you proud of your children? I said, not because they are doctors and engineers, no, because they are good human beings. They treat women right. And that's something very important in our part of the world. They treat women right. They respect women. My son wrote a small blog on his birthday saying, I was brought up by a woman whom I treat like a goddess. And this goddess was very strict with the way how she expected me to treat women. So I am today starting a fund to collect money for women who have been harassed. So I am very proud of that. So you need to influence your children, A, by setting an example. Please don't ask your kids to do anything that you don't do.
Mm-hmm.
If you want them to be a very good tennis player and you don't play tennis, you can't really tell them that. But what you can tell them is be good in a sport that you are doing, whatever the sport that you like. I'm not a sports person. My kids are into sports, so I didn't know what to tell them about sports. But all I did know was be dedicated, be committed, be disciplined. That's good for any sport, right? But they never turn back and say, Mama, you never played tennis, but they played tennis. So it's something like being true to yourself, and then children really know how to pick the genuine thing from that is not real.
That is such vital advice, Manohari, and it's the same message when we are leaders and we are managing teams. We manage our teams exactly the same way we influence our children. And when we come from that place, everything flows very smoothly. So do you want to share a success story of a team member you have influenced? And then we will revert to taking questions from our live audience here.
Yeah, there is one person that I really influenced. He's like a son to me almost. I have this maternal approach, Cass, because I'm now a mature employee, if I may put it that way. Lots of experience, lots of patience. So this person had quite bad A-level results, went to university on the third try or something and had very average results. But I liked his attitude. So over other candidates, I picked him. And from that day, I have been guiding him, and I was proven right in my initial assessment of him, because he was a very good employee in terms of performance and in terms of taking anything that was thrown at him positively. And I also wanted to take him because, Cass, in our part of the world, we have a lot of racial tension. So this person came from mixed parentage, and that was so important to me to give him a chance, because some people were thinking like, okay, they had some colored views, but I didn't. And when I got the opportunity, I gave him that chance. And then he fought through all the battles. I supported him. And it was just great that he took all his life's important decisions, checking with me, just as if I was his other mother. And today, he's holding a very good position in a government department in Australia. And we still keep in touch. he got married to a lovely girl. And whenever he was a team member, whenever the difficult things that he came across, he came to me and I was able to give an example. I'm really proud of him. And I think that is my star employee. But of course, I have plenty of people who have gone through my hands, as I would like to say, who received my guidance. Some of them actually didn't need guidance, but they needed some kind of morale boosters because they know what to do, but they still need your support. So you need to understand your team members for their different strengths. And every one of them has those different strengths. It's how you as a leader bring them together. And if the team members are fighting, so much the better, because then you have opportunities for leadership. So at the end of the day, when the team starts working together, sharing together, working towards the same objective, it's a great deal of happiness that comes to you because you made them work that way. So as a leader, one of the first things you learn is how you sacrifice ego. And that's something I have done. Once you decide to leave your ego on the table or somewhere in your handbag or whatever, and then go for a meeting, the meeting becomes so much easier because nothing is confrontational then. Everything becomes a discussion. And when people know, and your team also knows that you are not going to confront them, but you are going to discuss them, it becomes easier. That's how you become a leader. Please leave your ego. Then you are a real leader.
I could not have said that better, Manohari. And it's partly cultural for us, right? Ego is what stands between us and our fulfillment. So how do we find ways to leave it behind? And with that very ennobling thought, I am going to open this up for discussion. Go ahead, Lois. I saw you turn the camera on, so I'm going to let you go first.
Oh, I really appreciate your perspective. I think in today's world right now, we are desperate for that message. And, you know, it just struck me as you were talking how simple it is to say, leave your ego at the door, and how magical that is, and also how hard it is for people to do. And you exude in how you talk that sense of, it's not about me, it's about what I'm going to get done. I just want you to also talk a little bit about what you were saying with women and doing what honors you, because I think as we grow up in the world, corporate world, we shed a lot of what is our strengths because we think that that's the way we're going to succeed. So has that changed? Do you see changes, or have we regressed in that area?
I sort of rather veer towards the latter. I believe that we have regressed a bit. Kasturi talked about sisterhood earlier, and I wish I saw more of it in the corporate world. I didn't receive much sisterhood in my path to where I am, but I definitely try to correct that since I'm now in a position of influence. I believe that women need a lot of confidence. Some women also believe that they need to sort of portray an image of confidence and self-containment at all times. Otherwise, they will be perceived as being too chatty, being too relaxed, being too accommodating. I'm sure I was also perceived like that, but I pushed through because I wanted to be my own person. I was told during one of my performance appraisals a few years ago why I'm not as efficient as I should be because I talk to too many people for far too long. I think factually that is true. I talk to a lot of people. Maybe I took a long time also, but that was one of the good things about me. That's how I got teams together. That's how I negotiated with people. And if that image is not going down well with someone, well, that's just sad. I will improve my efficiency, but I don't need to change my image to improve my efficiency. So to answer your question, I think we women still have a lot to do. I am part of what we call a women's federation in my organization. So whenever we onboard women to Asian Development Bank, we make sure that they feel comfortable because we are an international organization and most of us are leaving our home countries and cultures behind and coming to a different country. So they need a lot of support systems. They need to battle with not only the new environment at work, but the usual outside work, the everyday life things. So we have built this network and we are very supportive of women who need special arrangements, etc. Of course, we are one of the more enlightened organizations, so it's easier to do. But this is going to be part of my initiatives, Lois, when I hopefully take some kind of, let's say, retirement, to make sure that I coach women. I don't think I'm going to be that clever like Kasturi, of course. I think she's devoted and committed to it, but I would like to contribute my bit to giving women confidence, because I think, at least in our part of the world, it has regressed a bit.
Thank you for that.
What a beautiful question, Lois. And I love the approach to your answer, Manohari, because our work here is never done. It is a continually evolving process, and we have to live a certain way. The way we show up is our message. And the way we cultivate an environment for others to show up the way they should. And this doesn't end with just women. We need to have women set boundaries and hold men to those boundaries. It was just yesterday, I was talking to a school principal here in Belize, and I said, men can be trained as long as we set boundaries and we hold them. One of the things I learned very early on is, because I dress colorful and I'm very friendly and I'm chatty, and I was a CFO for a Fortune 100 company, everybody thought I was Dr. Henry's secretary. So they'd come for meetings with Dr. Henry and they'll say the weirdest things, because I worked in a man's world, right? Financial services sector. And they'll say all kinds of god-awful things that they would never tell a CFO, because I was just the secretary. So I would play along. I can take a joke. I can laugh at myself, because as Manohari said, ego doesn't have a play there, right? There's a larger purpose here. And when we go into our meetings for negotiations, without a doubt, more than 50% of the time, men run out to splash cold water on their faces and come back for the meeting, because they have put their foot so far down their throat that they cannot negotiate. They cannot look me in the eye and talk. And guess what happens? I get everything I want the way I want, because I'm not budging an inch. You already showed me who you are, and I'm taking you for who you are, and we're going to negotiate from my point of strength. And all you did was show me your weakness. So I would build on what Manohari said, and don't take it as an insult. Because when we leave our ego at the door, we know how people behave is a reflection of who they are, and it's not saying a single thing about who I am. So I'm going to hold them to who they told me they are, and I'm going to make them change in the way I negotiate, because they're already going to feel guilty, because they're self-aware enough to know what guilt feels like. So my advice to women is, it doesn't matter how people treat you. Men or women, people of color, whatever, just because you're different, if people treat you differently, take it as a badge of honor, because they're scared. They're intimidated. Something about you is putting them off kilter. But the minute we get angry, we are letting our ego get in the way. That's true. And so somebody else's weakness in underestimating us truly is our superpower, because when they underestimate us, they don't see us coming. And that is quiet power. Take it. Go ahead, Sissy. I can see you have a question.
Yeah, thank you. Manohari, I absolutely loved your reference to your children. And I mean, it really resonated with my heart that you define success in bringing up children, not by the positions or what they've done with their lives, but that they're good people That really, really, really resonated with me. My question to you is around something that's really important to my heart as well, which is the tribe. Louise touched on it a little bit about your network, but I think I'm a great believer in having a tribe, and I call them my personal board of directors. But I think very often what I see is people leave it too late. They go and seek help when they're in a problem, and then they expect to get that. So I feel that there's a long way to go in being intentional and cultivating those relationships. I would love to get your perspective, any tips that you can offer on how you choose your tribe and how you build on it, so that they become this really supportive group of people that you can depend on, and it's a sharing both ways, right?
It is. Sushila, thanks for that question. I feel most of the time very shy to ask for help if I have not been talking to or cultivating a person. So that has actually held me back from asking for help. I always think that I haven't done anything for this person. I haven't even talked to this person. How can I ask for a favor? Then the only channel to go is the official channel. And that is usually not very successful, because then you are going behind some kind of legitimate authority. And for some reason, people resent when you take that channel. It doesn't work. So I have lost out opportunities like that. But what I do now is, when people come to me for help, Susila, and they have not cultivated me, they have not talked to me or reached out to me before, I still open myself to them and I help them. It works wonders because they never forget it. 90% of the time it works. There is that 10% who are always there. You know, there are people like that. They are only takers. So I believe that this world is takers and givers both. And I belong to the giver category. Sometimes I cannot take. I'm not good at taking. That doesn't mean I should stop giving. So I give because it gives me pleasure. But if I want to take, if everybody is not a giver, I need to work at it. That's why I network. Sometimes I know people talk to other people, especially if you are busy and you have very little time to talk to people. People talk to other people because they want to know what they can get out of them. Not in a bad way, but maybe, okay, is this person going to be useful to me? So one of the conversations that I had, as I mentioned earlier, during this mid-year appraisal of mine was because I speak to some people who have retired from the organization. And most people in the organization think I'm wasting my time. I'm not. Because I give them happiness. In turn, they give me a lot of secrets they were unable to share when they were working within the organization. And that's worth a ton of gold. And I know most of the things that they have told me, which people within the organization don't know. Now, you might say that, oh, you gave something and you got something in return, but I never ask. People just confide in you because you make time for them. So it's a journey, Susila. It doesn't happen overnight. For me, I want to conclude my answer with one final word: sincerity. You have to be sincere. If you're not sincere with people, just like I asked you to leave the ego behind, you need to be sincere. You need to sincerely be interested in the person that you are talking to. Not obviously that person may be of use to you. Yes, and you stand in good stead to receive some help, but you need to be sincere too. That's my answer.
Thank you. That's wonderful.
What an insightful question to see. And I love the answer that wraps around sincerity, Manohari. Sincerity and ego go hand in hand, right? When we leave our ego behind, it is easier to get our sincerity flowing because it is not coming from a selfish and self-serving purpose. So before we do anything else, I want to take a moment and ask you to share with our audience how they can get a hold of you, if they want to get in touch with you, if they want to connect with you. What is the best way or two for them to reach you, Manohari?
Okay, the best way to reach me is, of course, on WhatsApp. I don't know in the US whether you use WhatsApp that often. In Asia, we use WhatsApp a lot. So I can, how do I do this, Cass? Should I actually put my number in the chat group or
Send it to me and I'll put it when we post your video.
Okay. Okay. And of course, via email. I'm on Facebook. Cass will tell you also that I'm not a very active Facebook member, and I'll tell you the reasons for that. My country is going through a crisis at the moment. So I feel kind of, it doesn't really resonate very well with me to post personal items of what I did and all of that on Facebook. So I'm kind of taking a break from Facebook. So apologies for that. But other than that, I'm active on Facebook. So Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, email, all those applications you can, and I loved meeting all of you. And I also want to take this opportunity, Cass, to apologize because I have not been with you. I don't know how many of you actually finished your sessions, but today I discovered what a powerful, wonderful forum this is. So I promise you, I'm going to be there for you.
Thank you so much, Manohari. And we know you're dealing through a lot of things, working in Asia, working for Asian Development Bank, Sri Lanka going through crisis. Literally, the country is bankrupt and the head of the nation just disappeared with the money. So it really is a massive crisis. So we understand that. We hold space for you, and we cannot wait for you to continue to engage with us, because the goal of this forum, the goal of doing this book together as co-authors is not for the sake of one transactional purpose of releasing the book. It's about building a tribe that supports one another, men and women coming together with sincerity, without ego, all the things you're talking about. We are building a community of like-minded professionals who want to change the world in powerful but quiet ways. So thank you so very much to everybody. Manohari, I appreciate you staying up late, very late. In fact, wee hours of the morning to attend this. And to all our live guests from different parts of the world, staying up late, waking up early, and making time, because you make this community work. You make this community thrive. You are the living examples of what it means to unleash each of our inner Goldilocks. So just taking a page from Manohari's message today, keep networking, keep building those relationships, and keep building bridges to influence, because it's not just you, it's your children, it's your teams, it's everybody who comes behind you. And keep transforming lives, keep transforming lives of others. And in the process, please invest in yourself to transform yourself.